Mic check one, check two, check three. Hello, is anybody out there?
You want me?
Hello, check one, check two. That sounds good.
Hello? Yes? No? Yep. Yep.
Okay,
What?
thank you.
Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Hello. Yes, good morning. The mic works.
God, I feel like hell tonight. My tears of rage I cannot fight. I'd be the last to help you understand. Are you strong enough to be my man? My man. Nothing's true and nothing's right. So let me be alone tonight. 'Cause you can't change the way I am. Are you strong enough to be my man? Lie to me, I promise I'll believe. Lie to me, but please don't leave. show. I make the rules up as I go. It's try and love me if you can. Are you strong enough to be my man? My man. Are you strong enough to be my man? Are you strong enough to be my man? Are you strong enough to be my man? I've shown you that I just don't care. I'm throwing punches in the air. I'm broken down and I can't stand. Will you be man enough to be my man? Lie to me, I promise I'll believe. Lie to me, but please don't leave.
Good morning. My name is Robin Carter, and I serve as the president of the UCS Board of Trustees, and I'm excited to see you all here on a lovely Memorial Day weekend and want to extend a warm welcome to each of you, whether you are here in person or are joining us virtually. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg, we intentionally seek to care for one another and our community, and that includes all of us. We are a welcoming congregation, and we hope that you do feel welcome here in 3D and in 2D this morning, just as you are. You'll notice some special announcements in the Connect sheet at the back of your order of service. Please read and be sure to check out our weekly happenings emails and monthly Unison newsletter for even more information about the life of our congregation. Allow me to highlight a few announcements with you this morning related to our congregational annual meeting taking place next Sunday, June 5th. First, we held the Budget and Bylaw Amendment Q&A session last week, but because there were several other activities happening in the life of our church at the same time as the online Q&A session, Kim Danner, our finance chair, and I would like to offer one more additional opportunity to ask any questions related to these two items that we will vote on. Today, immediately after service, stick around in the sanctuary and we will both be available to go over questions related to the proposed budget and bylaw amendments. But if you're ready to vote and don't have any questions, you can do so now. Voting is open online via absentee ballot for anyone who either wants to avoid the check-in line on the day of or will be unable to attend in person. I do have copies with me this morning, so if you just want the URL to find out how to vote on the online ballot, it's at the top of the paper ballot, and you can grab one of these from me today. Speaking of voting, remember that in accordance with our church bylaws, members who have joined the church prior to April of this year and have made a financial contribution of record within the past year are eligible to vote. But note that our bylaws do allow for a hardship waiver if you have been unable to meet the financial contribution requirement. Please arrange a time to talk to Scott prior to Sunday's meeting if you want this waiver to participate in the democratic life of our congregation. And lastly, don't forget that we are having a potluck lunch celebration downstairs in Wild Hall after the business meeting is completed here in the sanctuary. There's a sign-up sheet for the potluck on the whiteboard in the foyer. When you arrive at church next Sunday, please take your potluck dish down to Wild Hall, where hospitality will receive it at the kitchen window, the new kitchen window. Yes. Oh, and you can take the luxurious elevator ride down to deliver. Yes. Hospitality is asking that you please label the ingredients and be prepared to take your dish home when you leave. They are not washing your dishes for you. So hospitality will graciously help you pack up your dish and your leftovers and get it home with you afterwards. Thank you very much for spending your holiday weekend here with us.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Fritchie, and I am honored to be with you today serving as your worship associate. Our minister, Scott Mealy, is out of the pulpit once a month for a much needed recharge, and I do have confirmation that he is indeed in the mountains. Yes, as he should be. This means, though, that we are lucky enough to hear from other people and other perspectives to enrich our journey. Scott himself believes that this morning we may be graced with one of our finest speakers yet. I am delighted to be here with my friend of now, I think 5 years, Stan Williams. This month, we have embarked on an exploration of a topic that could, as they say, have been fraught with peril. The divine masculine. That was at the behest of one of our beloved members, purchased as an auction sermon. Rather than getting lost in the weeds of meaning and theology, we have had the opportunity to listen to stories of folks who exemplify the divine masculine. We have heard about doctors, baseball players, ministers, and scouts. But today, we are privileged to hear from a man who I believe lives his life striving for the essence at the heart of the divine masculine, strength in vulnerability. Scott and I both know this man well. We know how he lives his sometimes complicated life in the service of others. Not because he is perfect, he is not. Not because he is a saint, he is not. But because life has handed him some punches that mean that every single day of his life, if he is not in service, he will succumb to his chronic disease, which is a force greater than himself. I want to be very, very clear that Stan Williams, given the opportunity to speak, can run on various topics for approximately 2 to 4 hours without losing steam. But he was urged to allow me to interview him for our reflection, specifically because we wanted to be sure that he spoke about something that he doesn't always want to talk about, himself. He is likely right at this moment bowing his head at my praise, but this man deserves it. I hope that our informal chat will help you get to know this amazingly humble divine being among us, and help you to know a little bit more about his life's calling, which has little to do with the dishes he washes in the restaurant or the toilets he scrubs at our church. I can't wait for you to get to know more about one of my heroes. I thank Sydney for adding her always completely appropriate music, and for our readers to help us share in their talents this morning. I'd like to thank everyone here who is especially here supporting Stan, and everyone for coming to join us this morning. Thank you.
I invite you to grab the hardback hymnal kind of in the seat underneath in front of you and turn to number 464 as we prepare to light the chalice this morning. Number 464. This is a responsive reading, so I will get us started, and if you will join together in reading the italicized portions. So hear now the words of Judy Chicago, and then. And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both men and women will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
We share our strength by celebrating our joys, and we share our vulnerabilities in sharing our sorrows. This is the time in our service when we come forward to offer a shell or a stone to the rippling bowl, to let this community share in the divine. Please come forward as you would like.
There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer. If you reach into your soul, sorrow that you know will melt away. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive when you feel like hope is gone. Look inside you and be strong. You'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself. The emptiness you felt will disappear. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you tomorrow. In time, you'll find the way. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. When you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong. You'll finally see the truth. A hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you.
The words of our covenant are printed in your order of service. Our covenant was written by this congregation. It's a promise of how we strive to be together. We do not get this right. We may not even always believe it to be true. And yet, we return week after week and say these words together, dreaming of a day when we will live in the world we imagine. We must keep trying. Join me in our covenant. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. Are we? Oh.
You can sing together if you want. I don't think anybody knows this
I'm
one.
stepping away from the mic.
Yeah, well, no, get close.
Please stand for our hymn, number 109.
As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day, in a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray.
Did anyone else notice that last week we did not have the opportunity to greet one another?
Uh-oh. So we do it twice as long this week.
I thought about writing an angry letter to our minister, but then I remembered I could put it right this week. For those of you who are visiting for the first time, this is the time in our service when we stand, if we want to, and greet one another. This place, for many of us, is a place where we can fully be our true selves. It is a place of safety, but it is also a place of vulnerability. And I was reminded just this morning that sometimes the space that we create here can be almost overwhelming to someone who doesn't have a space like this. If you come to me, I will hug you. If you don't want to receive a hug, it is totally fine for you to stay seated to your comfort level. But as Sydney pointed out, because we didn't have the time last week, we're gonna greet one another, but just remember the time that you are taking is cutting into time that you may be hearing from Stan.
I took 2 yesterday. They both can't walk. No, I took 2 intakes. I took a baby blue day and a baby morning dose. But let me give you this because I don't see it. baby gets the money. Did you put the dog up there?
Oh. Let there be an offering now to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream.
Mama told me when I was young, come sit beside me, my only son, and listen closely to what I say. And if you do this, it'll help you some sunny day. Oh, take your time and don't live too fast. Troubles will come and they will pass. You'll find a woman, you'll find love. And don't forget, son, there is someone up above. And be a simple kind of man. Oh, be something you love and understand. Baby, be a simple kind of man. Oh, won't you do this for me, son, if you can? Forget your lust for the rich man's gold. All that you need is in your soul. You can do this if you try. All that I want for you, my son, is to be satisfied and be a simple kind of man, and be something you love and understand. Baby, be a simple kind of man. Won't you do this for me, son, if you can? Don't you worry, you'll find yourself. Follow your heart and nothing else. And if you do this, if you try, all I want for you, my son, is to be satisfied and be a simple kind of man, and be something you love and understand. Baby, be a simple man. Oh, won't you do this, only son, if you can?
Hey, it's good to be back up here. Doing a reading from the Defining Masculinity series, The Power of Vulnerability, by Seth Snope, Men as Allies Coordinator. Through the years, simple statements like "man up" that were meant to get us to stop crying over something insignificant evolved. They became more demanding, pushing us to be tough to get over it, to grow some balls. These statements not only affected the way we saw ourselves, but also began to affect the way we viewed women. As expectations stacked up on top of each other one by one, a rigid definition of what a real man should be formed. It included how a real man walked, talked, acted, and reacted to situations. How many of us guys have felt the pressure of being told to man up? Too often, men are told that we have to be in control, stoic, never cry, never show weakness. But why? Why do men feel the need to hide our true feelings, our true selves from the world to prove our worth? Why can't we allow people to see underneath this mask and let people in? Being vulnerable is one of the most liberating things men can do. And once we finally reveal what's under our manly masks, is when we can start to live authentically. We are liberated from the shackles of living into what a real man should be, and we can fully show our true selves to the world. It's like a weight lifted off our shoulders as we begin to allow others to see the true us. We allow others into our struggles, our fears, our hopes, our dreams, and it feels good. We aren't alone in our lives anymore. The people around us can bear our struggles with us. We can be afraid and run away without having our manhood threatened. If you can join me in silence as we prepare for Stan and Mel to share with us in this sacred space.
Apparently this thing is on.
All right. Got the time, right? I daren't go over noon, because as much flack as I've given Scott, we'll keep an eye. I would like to share with you all first how I met Stan. And then I'm going to ask him some questions about his life and philosophy. I met Stan at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Many of you know that I am an addiction medicine doctor, and many of you know that in 2017, I switched my area of practice over to addiction. And in addition to book learning, I decided to start attending Narcotics Anonymous to learn about addiction from the people who knew the most about it. So I started going to these meetings. And it was a little bit intimidating for me to walk into this room. This is a community of folks who are dedicated to helping one another. And they are almost as welcoming as our church. And so I was sort of peeking into the door over at the C.C. Woodson Recreational Center, and I had all kinds of people saying, "Come on in, you're in the right place, you're in the right place." And I thought, you don't know why I'm here. But I went to several meetings and began to be welcomed into this community. Per their tradition, I did not speak. You don't speak at these meetings if you are not someone who suffers from addiction, but they do welcome at some meetings folks to just come and observe. And one of the characters that I knew from this meeting was this very tall, gangly man next to me. And he had seen me at several different meetings, and he had welcomed me, and we were getting ready to start one of our meetings. And in this tradition, there is a tradition of readings that open the meeting. So the readings are passed out to folks, and as a way to really begin participation, we try to ask folks to do a reading. And I was sitting there, and this man came over to me, and he handed me one of the shortest readings. And he patted my arm, and he said, "Sister, it's okay. We're all here for you. Just go ahead and try one of the readings today." And I had to break down and say, I'm not really allowed to do one of the readings. I'm not who you think I am. And after the meeting, he said, "What you doing here?" Something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I invited him to go to lunch to explain to him who I was and what I was trying to learn there. But it was that kindness that caused us to be friends. Can I ask you to take your mask off so you can see that? Because I think it's also...
Yeah, causing the issue.
Uh-oh. You look a little more like Britney Spears if you take your mask off. Britney Spears? Yes. Stan, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I was born in Winston-Salem, home of Wake Forest. I grew up over in the red bricks of Highland, down near the Beacon. Attended school, Highland School, which was about 5 minutes away from the Beacon. Then my mom worked real hard to get us a house. I just primary Methodist. And it was an interesting journey from inner city to urban, because at the time it was pure Klan neighborhood. Saxon, Arcadia, Una, if anybody knows the area. It was pretty rough. Strange enough, in Highland, it was just us, so dealing with you guys was never really involved, you know? But coming from the Beacon to the school, there were kids going back and forth to Park Hill who used to throw stuff out of the bus at us, to spit at us and say things, so it was interesting. But in my household, we were never brought up to care. You know, we saw things on TV, but we were able to make our own decisions on this. So when we got over there and went to Dorman, which was not integrated, it was quite the journey, figuring out where you're supposed to be, because these guys wanted you over here, and some of these guys became my friends, you know, in school and so forth, so it was a balancing act. But, you know, survived that. Somewhere along the way, which some of the questionnaires we'll get to. We'll let you know where a lot of those inner storms became a little heavier, tornadoes and hurricanes and so forth, you know, because as brother was reading in the reading a while ago, finding out where your manhood and where you're supposed to be is always a balancing act. You know, where do you stand up, where do you sit down? Whether you fight for somebody else or let it be what it's going to be and then deal with that emotionally later on, saying, maybe I should have done something, you know, so ready when you are.
So when you were growing up, who were the men in your life that were your role models? And we talked about sometimes people are positive role models and sometimes they're role models of exactly like how you don't want to be.
Okay.
Who were those folks for you?
Well, my dad was in and out. My mom, very strong-willed woman, so they had their issues, and he was in and out. The times when he was not there, it was my uncle who was a military man, infantry, paratrooper. Whenever he was in, he would always spend time with us, take us to Ghost Town, Maggie Valley. You know, he was always going on trips, which was, I'll never forget those feelings of butterflies in the stomachs of getting ready to go places and stuff. He did 2 tours and sent many letters home. And at the time we were watching this on TV, Dan Rather and stuff, they were there, and it was very in your face. To me, that was manhood, fighting for something. And there was a stepfather who came into our lives. He was an interesting fellow. He was very physical, you know. I wouldn't say abusive, but he was just strong guy, you know. He always wrestled you, hold you in headlocks and stuff, and fart in your face. But these were the guys that were in and out. And at the same time, once again, television had about 3 channels at the time, and your heroes were Lone Ranger, you know, John the Big Guy Wayne, you know, people you saw on TV, the Hispanic hero, Zorro, and some of these guys, you know, but seeing them also taught me that there were other places who had heroes, you know, so that was the beginning.
So what does it mean, do you think, to man up, like Shane was talking about? And how has manning up affected your life?
That out of all the ones you had, I knew that was going to happen. That was one of the bigger questions. Today, I think manning up stand for something, you know, stand for something. In the readings in NA, we have a sentence in there to talk about standing up for non-existent virtues. That basically meant that the things I used to stand for, mind you, I've had addictive behavior, which always was a gray line and crossing it back and forth, saying that I'm this and I'm that, but not having on mask at the time, being a chameleon. But now, I honestly believe that standing up for something is borderline. You know, bullying is definitely one of those things. Standing up for people who cannot speak for themselves, like you guys do so often, is one of those things. Manning up, whether you have testicles or not, you know. I found some strong masculinity in some of the women here. The times when we had the Earth Day, picking up those cinder blocks. I'm trying to help the ladies, and you know, they've got this, you know. So, man up is a term that's not what it used to be. It's not the hair on your chest, you know. It's not how boisterous you can be over the other guys. It's just standing for something. That's what I believe.
So I want to talk to you about expressing care for other people. And can you tell me how you express care for other people and why you do that? So, for example, why did you come over to me 5 years ago and give me that reading?
Curiosity. Yeah. You kept showing up. And you were attentive. I mean, you wasn't doing this, that, and the other thing. You were listening. And in those rooms, a lot of times you experience people there for other people, you know, family members and so forth. Trying to figure out how can I help this individual. I don't know what to do, please show me. And I just had to ask, why are you here? And that's one of my favorite readings. And my sponsor told me to read that for 30 days. Why are you here? And put in the words, why am I here? So I don't get distracted by the human conditions that go on into the rooms, you know? And that helped me, I must say, they helped me learn how to express care. No matter what you look like, what you're doing, why are you here, you know? And how can we help you? You guys have taught me that a lot, how to do that a lot too. Just showing up, being on time, and being there while you're there, you know, not just a fly on the wall, but being active. We say be a part of your recovery, not just sitting there. It's great that you're here, but what are you going to do while you're here? So that's one of the things I like about you. You guys are involved in the world. You're not just saying, well, we're here, you guys do what you need to do, we're going to do what we need to do. You ask, how can we help you? And I just felt akin to that when you volunteered me for so many things here. You know? And I'm so glad that happened, so yeah, that's how I express care.
I'd like to point out that one of the ways you express care is that when you are talking about yourself, you very often say, just like you people here do, so that the focus can come away from Stan. And then, but what it really does is you create community by saying, well, I do these things, but you do these things too. Mm. That's why we're all here. Mm. And I see you do that over, and I don't know how many conversations I've been in with this man trying to talk about the work that he does with people in recovery, and it immediately becomes, oh, but she over here, she's doing all this. And then the other way that you express care that many people in this room know about is your very, very famous text messages. Hmm. Raise your hand if you have ever gotten a text message from Stan Williams.
Good.
These are beautiful things. It's just Stan checking on you to see how you're doing, and they are filled with emojis. So, raise your hand if you would like to receive a text message from Stan. Okay, before you leave today, we should put out a sign-up sheet of phone numbers, and you will get on the Stan text message link. Now, let me explain to you, you may not always understand what the emojis mean, but there will be a string of them, and we've talked about developing a Stan to emoji decoder. Hmm. Yes. So we've talked a little bit about care and recovery. You are in ongoing recovery. We know that this is a process. Mm-hmm. How does that process affect your life and how you move about through your day? Hmm.
Recovery is self-care. It involves just getting in motion. Something about addictive behavior wants you to just, okay, let the world do what it's going to do. I'm just going to sit here in my warm blanket and do nothing, you know. You know, it really wants you to do that. And the warm blanket is chaos. You know, it's just the opposite of being in control of something, which is an illusion in itself. But my recovery starts with going to work, you know, and a lot of times texting somebody before that starts. It was suggested a long time ago to get in touch with at least 2 people outside your area my regular moving around and see how they're doing to start my day. It's a method of getting you out of self, which, as Mel talked about, sometimes people like myself with addictive behavior, if we talk about ourselves too much, we'll start patting ourselves on the back, and I'm good today, and I'm in control, and big guy, thank you for all you've done, but you sit in the back seat now, I've got the wheel again. And a lot of times that results in a crash and burn. That's why I try to be careful with that line. You know, 14 years of this, we're going on 15 now. After a few bumps and bruises, I walk that line very carefully. And a lot of times if I'm texting you guys, it's not so much to see how you're doing, it's to remind myself that there are other people out there who care about me, and I need to let them know that I care about them too. You know, so yeah, it's an ongoing process.
You just said something, see, you do this, and you say these words that I'm like, dang, that's so smart. Recovery is self-care. It's that simple, right?
It can be, it should be, it should be.
Does religion or spirituality shape your recovery experience?
Oh yes, yes ma'am. Very good question. Brought up in the South, you're probably going to be a Southern Baptist boy if you have my kind of pigmentation. There was a lot of and yes and you know, turn or burn stuff, which has been interesting and has its places because structure is necessary. But I found in my life that through my experience, you might ought to broaden that up a little bit, because everybody has their own points of view on things. I've learned to mellow out with a lot of the strictness of religion, so to speak, and open myself up to spirituality. In recovery, we talk about spirituality a lot because we don't care how you got here, just stay here. And sometimes one needs something bigger than self to do that. Some days it's going to take a text from Marlise, who's busy right now, or somebody just showing up and say, hey, how you doing? You all right in there? I haven't seen you in a while. And that's spiritual in nature because if I left them on device, you guys do what you need to do. I take care of me. I don't think there's too much spiritual about that. So, yeah, religion has had its place in my life, still does. But it has evolved into spirituality, which means whatever. Whether it's the wind blowing on my face, which I feel is bigger than me, the children laughing, which is much bigger than me, that's hope. Rain coming down, let it be what it's going to be. I'm learning the language of that, the Spanish term, let it be what it's going to be. And I stand out the way. I get out the way.
So, do you have a higher power?
A couple of them.
What does she look like?
Redhead, blonde. But it's always a being that brings something. They're not taking all the time. They're bringing something, and they're asking you to give something if you can. If you can't, the time will come when you'll know when you need to. It's kind of it's kind of Zenish. Yeah.
So, the last 2 years have been. We okay? No. Last 2 years. We'll get there. The last 2 years have been challenging for all of us, and I have found that I've learned a lot about myself during the pandemic. Have you learned things about yourself during this time?
Indeed. And I'll sum this up quickly if I can. I had a mother who because of certain things going on, she caught COVID, and she was in the facility for so long. And if you've been in your own house and in your own yard and your own garden for most of your life, it was a struggle for her. A struggle for us, because so like many times we couldn't see her. And when we could, we saw the effects of the disease on her through a window, to where she could not respond because of the fog that they're talking about now. And it was very, very difficult. And she passed away after, the pandemic and stuff. And then my grandmother, 99 years of life, who you guys remind me of so much because you're so loving and giving. She passed away. So it's been quite a tough 2 years, because the heroes I've known all my life are gone, But what it has enabled me to do is remind those who suffered so much after these two powerful women left, to remind them that a piece of them is in them. Life continues. As a movie coming out later on next month, Life Finds a Way. So the dinosaurs are still here. They're just inside of us. Yeah.
Okay, I have one last question. Scott is always after us about taking care of one another. Why do you think he keeps on that?
Well, I've talked with the man, I've walked with the man, I've been with the man a lot here lately. One of the reasons I'm still here, because if we don't do it, who will? If we don't take care of each other, who will? If you're living on this ball of dirt, one learns not to depend on everybody else to do something that needs to be done. Like the people I talked about who passed away, if you see the trash on the ground, pick it up. Somebody's going to say, well, that's not my job. So be it. Pick it up anyway, and do things to the best of your ability, as if you're doing it for that higher power, or whatever it is that you believe in. I've watched this man walk around with tenderness, listen to everybody's concern intently, would ask you how you're doing, and then ask you how you really doing. That patience. When you got all this stuff going on in your life and you take time to care about somebody else, that's powerful. That's spiritual. That's not even religious. That's just humanity at its best. So, yeah, if we don't do it, who will?
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside, and give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. Never found anyone who fulfilled my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I lived as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. I believe the children are future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside, and give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I lived as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. And learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of leads you to a lonely place, find your strength in love.
You can join me in responsive reading 666, The Legacy of Caring. Despair is my private pain, born from what I have failed to say, failed to do, failed to overcome. Be still, my inner self. Let me rise to you. Let me reach down into your pain and soothe you. I turn to you to renew my life. I turn to the world, the streets of the city, the worn tapestries of brokerage firms, drug dealers, private estates, personal things in the bag lady's cart. Rage and pain in the faces that turn from me, afraid of their own inner worlds. This coming world I love anew, as the lifeblood of generations who refuse to surrender their humanity in an inhaling world courses through my veins. From within this world, my despair is transformed to hope, and I begin anew the legacy of caring.
That being said, do what you need to do, stand for what you need to stand for. That's masculine.
have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the